What's going on, fishy friends? We are going to go from, well, actually, it was supposed to be the Severn River, but he was in Key West. We're going to go from there all the way up to Inshore in North Carolina and talk to our man, NCPierman, about inshore North Carolina fishing. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad, buddy. How's it going?
It's going really well, actually. It's going really well. I don't know if you guys got some of this warm weather, but it was darn near 80 degrees up here today.
It was gorgeous here today. Only bad part is the wind still.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know all these spots to fish to get away from the wind, don't you?
Oh yes.
Of course
There's
you do.
no the fish. They can't hide from me.
They cannot hide from NCPierman. But before we get to the awesome fishing report, question of the night will win 2 packs of paddle tails. I always say if you're stuck on a desert island and you have one bait, you want a paddle tail. From Old School Tackle Company, we have a 3.75-inch hammer and Screaming Demon, and the same thing in Smoking Shiner. So the winner will win a couple of those, and I feel like a sneeze coming on in just a second. So, I warn you guys in advance. But Tim, let's do. We got some people saying hello. Good morning, TFC. Where are you at, Rodney? You're only in Missouri. It's still evening there, sir. Ken says evening, Tim. So we're going to do the 2-minute bite, which is, what's biting the best in North Carolina? What are you using? And what's your technique?
All right. Right now, red drummer's still good. They're still schooled up yet. I'm catching with paddle tails. I'm catching with hard bodies. Uh, Anything slow moving still. You drift lures. Just about anything that you want to use. You just got to figure out how they want it at that time. Uh, Last time I was out, it was I got more on cut bait than I did anything else. I had a pile of blowups on top waters, but they weren't just connected to it. They were still sluggish, still cold yet. Water temperatures are starting to come back up now. The baits are going to start moving back in here about the first week of April. We should start seeing bait influx coming in again. The top water bites is going to get further and further and hotter.
Nice. That's what we like to hear. When you talk about cut bait, is it cut mullet?
Yes, cut finger mullet. I prefer fresh mullet, but I can go like to Walmart or any bait and tackle stores and buy the whole frozen finger mullet and cut them up into 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch pieces. Put them on a jig head. As a matter of fact, Ken that said hello to me, he's actually my jig maker. He's up in Pennsylvania. Yep, Ken Glassner. I just got an order shipped in for me 100 jig heads and another order of 103/8 ounce barrel sinkers.
And your jig heads are it will give it as a nice opportunity to give Ken a plug. Your jig heads are somewhat unique in that they are 1/16 ounce.
Yes.
But the hook is a little different. Do you want to explain that?
The hook is a 4/0 Mustad hook, and they're thick. So they don't have any bend. They don't have any give into them. I haven't had a single fish yet break my hooks. Where I've used other hooks that were similar jig heads, and I'd have hooks that were snapping.
Right.
This time of the year, when the fish start really getting going, they're getting more aggressive and they're hitting and they're fighting harder. Unlike the time I had you out, they just kind of flip flopped in the water. They fought more like a catfish than they did a red drum.
Well, towards the end of the day, once that water started warming up, they woke up a little bit.
Yeah.
Up a little bit, but for sure in the morning, yeah, it was weird.
Right.
I mean, they would just kind of pull your line tight, and you felt like you had a log.
Yeah, and if they didn't pull your line tight, you felt like you had pinfish biting your line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's normal winter stuff. And I always tell people, I said, your wintertime fish is nowhere near what these summertime fish do. Your spring, when that water starts warming up, you're going to get a lot more fish that are going to take drag off that reel. You'll fight them 3 or 4 times back to the kayaks or the boats before you actually get to land them in. That also has to play with how tight you keep your drags. And as you saw, I tightened your drags up a little bit more than what you guys had them.
Right.
And everybody looks at my line, they pull on my line like, you really fish that tight of a drag? I said, yeah. I know if a 23-inch fish grabs a hold of it, he's going to take drag, but a 21 or a 22, unless they're really fighting hard, they're not going to take my drag off my reel, and I can get them in quick.
Right.
Biggest thing with red drum is I don't want to fight them too hard. I don't want to keep them. I don't want to tire them completely out to where you got to revive them for 10 or 15 minutes in the water before you let them go. That's what ends up killing a lot of fish, and I don't like to do that. I like to get them in as fast as I can and get them back off.
That's good stuff. But you're going back to your jig head because Ken, I don't know if what your production system is, but please, if you want to make more jig heads, put your contact information into the chat. But your jig is essentially the hook on it is what you would find on most, at least half-ounce jigs, if
Right.
not a full ounce.
Right.
So it's a big hook on a tiny jig head, which honestly is kind of desirable for a lot of different types of fishing. If you're fishing in shallow water for larger fish, we don't get enough of that, I don't think, in the fishing industry, where we can get a nice light jig that you can still catch a large fish with.
Right. You get a lot of hooks are too flexible. They'll put in the gold hooks or the brass hooks.
Oh yeah,
Or
you can
even
straighten that out with your hand.
yeah, even a wire hook that just doesn't hold up to a heavy fish. Uh, Reds have been known to break lures, crush lures with their mouth and their jaws. So I prefer to have a heavier hook than what normally most people do. I use a 16th ounce jig head because I fish mostly inside the creeks where I don't really have a real heavy current. Same way with my sinkers, I use 3/8 ounce. I don't go anything heavier than a 3/8 ounce sinker for Carolina rigging. And I'll use good 3 to 4 inch finger mullet, live finger mullet in the summertime, spring and summer. They get a little bit of play where they can move around a little bit with the sinker, bouncing it out. Usually it doesn't move the sinker. It just takes the line a little bit. But other than that, I like to stay light with a heavier set hook. I don't like that wire hook. I literally last year I had one red, I think it was. Yep. He said I needed a stout hook, so he put the heaviest hook he could in the mold.
Yeah, thanks for chiming in on that, Ken.
I had one hook break on a red that I know was a lot bigger than what I should have been in my area at that point. Biggest red I've landed inshore here in one creek has been 36 3/4 inches.
And that I remember seeing the video on that one. That thing took you around for a while.
Yeah, it did. That fish pulled me out a good 200 yards out the mouth and then another 150 yards back in the mouth. I was like, okay.
It's a round trip.
And that water was only 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep.
Jeez. 36-inch drum.
36 3/4 inch.
The most it was in is 2 feet of water. It had nowhere to run but left to right. I mean, that's
Yep.
That must have been a blast.
Awesome. Totally awesome. I love that stuff. And that was on a topwater lure. I actually got to see that fish hit. Me and a good friend of mine, Dave Getz, were paddling back into a cove, and we were side by side, and I looked towards the creek mouth, and all of a sudden I seen the fish coming out, and I just threw past them. I reeled it up quick behind them, and it started to work it. All of a sudden I seen her come up, and I seen that mouth open up, that big white lips just open up and smash it. And I was like, good God.
Oh.
But
I in the video, you also had a couple of more colorful terms to share.
Oh, yes.
You were very excited.
Yes, I was. I think that was the biggest red drum I had caught at that time. My biggest one before that was 35.
Guys, if you want to see this video, it's on YouTube, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's on NCPierman Outdoors. I can put that in the chat real quick. That's the name of the channel, right? NCPierman Outdoors?
Yep.
Got a lot of cool stuff on there, but that's definitely a fun video to watch. I mean, he literally gets, take him for a ride for a good long time. And I mean, if you like the sound of drag, watch this video
Yes, got a lot of drag pullage on that.
for sure. Well, when Lady C and I were there a couple of years ago, we were catching an occasional black drum mixed in with the
Yep.
reds.
Yep.
And you said at the time that the black drum were kind of just heating up then, and it was only going to get better. So
Yeah.
I would imagine in the March and April months, you could
Oh, yeah,
expect that black drum to be a good fishery.
Our black drum are usually in right now in our deeper holes like I had you in. They'll always be in there right until throughout the summer, really. They'll stay around. They're still, even like the red drum, the black drum kind of school up together. So you might catch, you find a spot where you might get a 14-foot hole and put, I don't care, even if it's a fish bite down there, you pick a black drum up and it's like all of a sudden you're right into a school of them where you can pick 5 or 6 of them up in the same size.
And what's the big black drum for Inshore, North Carolina?
Pardon?
What's a big black drum for those inshore areas in North Carolina?
We get them up to, I've heard of them in the one creek that I didn't have you on. I've had a friend of mine catch one at 27 inches.
Okay.
I've seen them in that one creek where their sign fins were bigger than my foot. And I wear a size 10 shoe.
Okay.
So on average, I think that black drum probably was close to 60 pounds.
You know what? If someone's going to get one, you will at some point.
At some point, yes.
As much as you're on the water down there, I mean,
like, the biggest one I've caught was 24 and a half because I normally don't target them.
But a 24 and a half inch black drum is still a heavy fish. That's probably still a.
Oh yeah, he'll fight you like a 30
fish.
He'll fight you like a 30-inch red drum.
Yeah, for sure. Rodney actually said the reason why he said it was good morning is he's listening from Australia.
There you go. Yep.
I hope you're doing some fishing in Australia, Rodney. What else do we have? Oh, in the thumbnail picture for the show, you had what looked like a 30+ inch bluefish.
That bluefish is 36 inches long. We call them Hatteras blues here.
I'd never heard you and I have been talking fishing for 2 or 3 years now, and I never heard you talk about bluefish down there.
That came from the same creek I had you on.
Really?
Yes, we caught 5 of them that day in one spot. We had over
cool. Yeah.
We had 75 pounds of bluefish and 5 fish.
Wow.
Every one of them were that size. Our creeks here normally get them. They don't get them. We don't get them in large numbers. You'll average your 3-4 pound bluefish. The big Hatteras blues will come in from time to time. The last couple of years, they have not come in. We may have seen 1, maybe 2 on 2 different creeks that have come in. We used to sit on Queens Creek right by the bridge. That's where I first, me and another friend of mine, Eric Bartosh, finally caught into what was cutting our leaders off all the time.
Right.
He hooked one up. That thing come jumping up out of the water. I was like, that ain't no red drum.
No.
That looked like a big old bass with teeth coming out, shaking his head.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we caught 2 or 3 that day, but the best one I ever had, I was out with a veteran over on the creek that I had you on, and we weren't far from the boat ramp, and we got into 5 of them that day. We lost a couple of them as well, but we caught 5 of them that day, and we had 75 pounds of fish.
Man, and they, I think they're a really underrated fish in terms of table fare. I think they make great smoked fish, like a
smoked. Smoked, yes, definitely. This time, like end of March, going into April, normally, as you know, I use a 20-pound mono leader. I jump up to anywhere from 50 to 100-pound mono leader.
Just in case, right?
Yep, even when I'm fishing for reds.
Yeah. Well, your water is kind of murky, so, I mean, I don't know if the fish are all that leader shy anyways, are they?
Oh, no, reds aren't leader shy at all.
Yeah.
I've literally caught reds on a 130-pound wire.
Yeah.
Fishing for bluefish and fishing for sharks. I'm using shark rigs out near the inlets, and I'm catching 28, 29-inch reds on it.
Yeah. They're so scent based. I mean, they're not worried about a leader, I don't think.
Nope. When they're hungry, I don't care what fish is. When they're hungry, they're going to eat no matter what they see.
No, we see the same thing up here. When they get really schooled up here in the bay,
Oh, yeah,
you could throw anything in there.
exactly. Uh, and just about any fish is that way. If they're hungry, they're going to eat regardless.
Yeah. And
Uh,
especially when they're in a school, they get competitive, right? So
right.
if they see something and they're like that, well, that could be food. Uh,
I've had reds in January throwing top waters in the bay, and I'll have 10, 15 reds fighting over one lure.
we got a question coming in from Ken. It's the Ken Glassner show tonight. He makes these awesome jigs and he's asking awesome questions. He says, Tim, you said that you don't catch many black drum because you don't target them. What do the reds like that the black drum don't?
The reds will like everything and anything if it's presented to them right. And even if it's not, a lot of times. A black drum is more finicky. A black drum is more of a crustacean eater. He's going to eat crabs. He's going to eat shrimp, clam. They're kind of like a red drum to me. Anyway, they crush stuff. I've caught black drum on, and so have you. You've caught black drum on using cut finger mullet, which usually doesn't happen. But when there's no other food source around for them, that's what they're going to eat. But black drum literally are more of a crustacean eater than they are anything else. They'll eat crustaceans before they'll ever eat a finger mullet. They're not going to chase it.
You got powerful jaws for eating.
Yep, they'll eat barnacles off the side of the pylons. Anything like that, they're going to eat.
What about because you guys have so many different species to cover down there? Speckled trout, I guess, is happening, but probably a little bit further north than you.
Yes, higher up, more northern and northeast end, or I guess you'd say, going up towards the OBX and the Palmical area. They're doing real well, and they're doing pretty good down the other end of us too. But our area this year, they're catching trout up here, but nothing like they're catching up those ends.
Yeah.
We're finding spike trout here and there, but nothing of any real size to me now is being caught. You catch a few up the higher end of the creeks, up higher into fresher water. As long as the salinity level is good, they're up in the top still. And they're already working their way out. So it's only a matter of time now when the bigger fish that are up there come back down and start hitting down on the lower end of the creeks again.
NCSR fish. This is pretty much a question. We'll turn this into a question. But he's just asking what area you're fishing.
Swansboro, Hubert areas.
So,
North Carolina.
Yeah, inshore, like creeks and rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys also have, occasionally you have flounder down there. And during the summer you do gar, right?
Yes.
But
gar. I like to fish for gar and bowfin as well as catfish or anything else. Gar can be extremely fun to fish for, very frustrating fish because they're hard to hook.
Yeah.
Bowfin, I travel further upstate up towards the Kinston area to go for bowfin because I find bigger bowfin up there. My biggest bowfin has been 33 inches. My biggest gar was 51. And I actually watched a friend of mine catch a 55-inch gar and miss a state record by 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I know you and John Vale did some gar fishing one time.
I don't remember if I fished gar with him or not.
Yeah.
My accident's got my short-term memory gone, so it's like I fished with John many a times. I don't remember if I took him for gar or not. I think I did, but I'm not positive. If I did, I took him down to New River in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing some pictures. He posts a lot of stuff on Facebook.
Yes.
But when does that start? You know, when does that gar or bow fin
Gar
or all?
Gar will be biting now.
Okay.
They'll be slow, but they will be biting now. April they start to spawn the bowfin and the gar, so they get a little bit harder to catch. Um, Most of my biggest gar have been usually caught this time of the year in early spring or just middle of spring when they're already done spawning. Uh, Average gar size that I catch is normally between 40 to just about 50 inches long.
Wow.
We get a lot of smaller snakes, but most of them are all big.
A gar puts up a good fight, I would suppose, right?
And they're also good eating.
Are they really?
They are what they call poor man's lobster. They got the same texture.
Really?
Oh
Wow,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
They're
A lot
not
of people.
bony?
Pardon?
They're not bony?
No, you get back straps off them like you do a deer. They're
Learn
just
something new every day.
they're
That's
just
really cool.
they're horrible to clean because you need a pair of tin snips and a hacksaw. Most people chop them up the back with a machete,
Mhm.
but you got to cut across. When you do that, you don't have to worry about cutting across behind the gills. Their scales are like diamond plate, and they're actually diamond shaped. So, and it kind of you can't run a knife straight down the body because the scale pattern goes in a half moon circle down the sides. So if you go in the half moon circle, you can cut them. But if you try to go straight down the body, you'll never do it. You'll ruin every knife you ever try.
Well, they're beautiful. They're really pretty
They
too.
are. They very are.
Yeah.
Um, our state record is just over 25 pounds. I've had it and I released it. I had caught it almost 7 foot gar from the bank one year. I had him on the stringer. I was going to take him in to have him weighed in for the record, but I said, nah, my stepson talked me I'll talk me into letting it go. And I was like, okay. I know that fish was every bit of 30 pounds.
Wow. Well, before because we do have a couple of questions to choose from for question of the night. Um, we don't talk gar fishing much on this show, right? So
No.
let's do this. Let's just give us real quick when you're gar fishing, what's your technique and what's your rig look like?
Okay, when I gar fish, I can use lures. They'll destroy a lure, so I try to stay away from the lure fishing. I use dead finger mullet, where I run the hook down through the head, and I come it out the back of the head, and I'll turn the hook so the hook's facing up. Hey, lady, see, and then I throw it out, no sinkers, no bobbers, nothing. Throw it out and just let it drift down to the bottom. I'm fishing in the river area, more or less. It has a tidal flow, so that current's pulling that bait down under, and it's going down slow enough. When the guard picks it up, I open my bail, and I'll hold the string in my finger, and I'll let that line slip through my fingers, so he doesn't know I'm there, but enough to know that I know the wind's not pulling it, or the current's not pulling. It's an actual fish. I let him run 3 times with it. On the third run, as soon as he stops, I'm turning and I'm setting that hook. I'll close that bail and I'll set that hook. He may
That's
have
3 times to make sure that
the bait is in the mouth area.
right.
Because if it's in the bill, you can hook them in the bill, but they've got so many teeth and their bone structure is so heavy in the jaws that a lot of times when you try to set that hook will actually turn and slip right up over the teeth and come right out the side. It'll never get down to the jaw where it needs to be. So if you let them run and get it down into the mouth area, you stand a 10 times better chance of actually hooking one in the mouth. If I, per se, deep hook one, I don't pull the hook out. I cut the hook off and let them go because I'm using a cheaper kind of a hook back when I do that. Something that's going to rust out real easy. It's not a real heavy set hook. They're usually gone in a week. And these fish will still eat.
Mm-hmm. They're tough. Well, we got 2 questions. We're going to call NC Senior Fish. That's what I want to call him. asking what area you fish in, and then we got Ken's question asking about what do the reds like that the black drum don't? What do you
That
think?
would be that's a good question.
I agree. We're gonna go with Ken's question for question of the night. Can you win 2 packs of old school tackle company paddle tails and 3.5 and 3.75? Ken, real quick, if you want to sell more jig heads, please feel free to put your contact information in the chat, and people can contact you that way and buy your jigs. If you make jigs for Tim, then you could absolutely, use this as an opportunity to sell some jig heads. But also, as Lady C just typed in, email us at admin@thefishingchannel.net and tell us where to send them. But thanks everybody for the questions. Thank you for chiming in. Good to have you as always, Tim. You want to close us out with anything?
Get out there and fish. They're getting ready to go off on fire, so it's only a matter of time. They're going to start splitting up, and the reds will be a little bit harder to find, but a little bit of patience, you'll find everything you want.
Well, I can't wait to fish with you in about 2 weeks.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to it then. And next time we have this show, we'll have a little bit more to talk about.
Exactly.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. Congratulations, Ken. Let me see if he put. We appreciate you guys as well, Ken. Unfortunately, you lost your sound, but yeah, send us your email address or your contact information to admin, and we will see everyone next time. Thanks so much.
Have a great night.